We made it to Friday, Spags. We've welcomed people to the family. We've peered into the crystal balls, and now we have a very special guest joining us today.
Today is where we get serious with our guy, Ben Gretch, at Yards Per Gretch on Twitter, is doing work for possibly every site in existence out there. We will talk more about that. Of course, we'll give our ride or die picks for every single Week 7 Sunday game. We'll talk about the injuries that actually matter, and we're going to have a lot of fun, as always, on this fine Friday. So, Pete, hit that intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I'm Chris Spags, joined by your friend and mine, Peter Overzet, as well as our friend, who's also doing the ship chasing show. And Gretch, you have so many plugs now. I went through your bio, and it's amazing the amount of work you're doing. But it's Ben Gretch at Yards Per Gretch on Twitter. How you doing, Gretch?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought of it that way, but yeah, in the Twitter bio, it's always like I don't want to leave any place that I'm doing work out and make that look bad. So I'm just like throwing everything in there that I'm doing.
So let's ask some questions, because I know the last time we've done a couple shows in between the ship chasing Splash Play crossovers, because we do share Pete as our really custodial axis is what we're passing back and forth for fantasy shows of Pete.
Jesus.
And the last time we talked, Gretch, you were launching the Stealing Signals newsletter over at Substack, but now you're doing stuff for Odds Checker, Roto Grinders. You're also doing the Stealing Bananas podcast over at RotoViz. So I'll just ask a hard question right away. What's your favorite thing you do?
Oh, wow. You just said he just said he didn't want to leave anyone out in his bio.
No, I mean, look, ship chasing's a blast. I love chatting with Pete every week. I would probably say the Stealing Bananas pod. I get a chance to chat with Sean Siegel every week for a few different episodes. Definitely somebody who I have a ton of respect for, kind of a mentor for me when I was coming up. And yeah, I mean, like he's just somebody I love talking football with. So it's always a blast.
Yeah, and ship chasing, we all know, a great show here. Of course, you could check out. Pete has the links on his channel here, but of course, they're doing a lot of good stuff. And we're going to talk more about best ball coming up in a little bit. But let's get some of the plugs out of the way. In addition to making sure you follow at Yards Per Gretch on Twitter to check out all the work that Ben's doing over there. Make sure you're following at Splash Play Pod, where of course we do follow you back. And also make sure you check out Football Outsiders, footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. You can get FO Plus in your life, all the data that's referenced. I know Bill Simmons has been talking about DVOA on every podcast. Doesn't have our guys on the show, but he's mentioned it every time out there. And you can be like Bill Simmons, a guy that we occasionally beat up on this show, by going to footballoutsiders.com/subscribe and get all the data that they use on there. That's really going to be helpful, make lineups on a holistic level for just $5 a month. So go footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. And Pete, let's start here, because I want to talk about the injuries that actually matter, but I do think we need to ask a little more of Gretch and talk more about ship chasing, because I've talked about it on this show a little. I'm jealous of the growth you guys had all summer, the fun you had with the Vegas trips. Here we just put on silly hats and do bits, but I feel like the ship chasing growth, Pete, that you've been a part of as well, is like one of the most noteworthy things in the industry, the buzz, the community you guys have built.
This summer was fun. Yeah, we had a ton of fun doing the drafts. I think we had a stretch there in August where we were doing just what seemed like a draft every night. And yeah, it's the people love draft streams. That's one thing we've realized. Best ball streams, high stakes streams. People absolutely love it. And I think people like our ship chasing drafts just because we are so transparent and talking through our thought process. I think previously a lot of the high stakes drafters, it's felt like these guarded secrets and you can't post your name on the draft boards. And so I think we had fun kind of thumbing our nose at that and just kind of drafting in front of everyone, even if we sacrificed some EV along the way, right, Ben?
Yeah, speaking of sacrificing EV, our waivers shows this year, Wednesday nights, Pete's favorite thing is to tell everyone our exact waiver bids right before waivers lock. So that's become a fun minus EV tradition so far this year as well.
Yeah, it's probably why I'm able to get some custody of Pete, because you get sick of him after that Wednesday show and you go, okay, we'll go back to Splash Play for a few days and do something else over there. But Gretch, I guess give the people the plugs one real fast as well for yourself, because we mentioned so much out there, but I know the best sales pitch is always going to be from yourself. And I do want to make sure people are checking your work out, because I think you, as much as anybody in the fantasy industry, every piece of content you do, you could tell the prep and the amount of love that goes into it. And that sounds kind of sappy, but I do, it's something I admire and I think a lot of people can tell. So tell people where they could check out what you're doing on a weekly basis. basis.
I appreciate that, man. The Substack, the newsletter Stealing Signals, I break down every game on Mondays and Tuesdays and give the signals and the noise from every game, what I think is gonna be telling going forward, what I think you can kind of fade. That is over at Substack, bengretch.substack.com. It's a long article each week, but I do have like a summary at the end that a lot of people just like to check out for the biggest highlights. It's $8 a month. It's a premium subscription if you want to do that. Then you mentioned the odds checker stuff. I do some sports betting stuff there. I do a Grinders live DFS live stream just before lock. I guess it's 11:30 Eastern on Pacific time. So 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern every week. Obviously ship chasing the Stealing Bananas pod with Sean. Did I miss anything? I said I didn't want to miss anything.
Your children,
I think you got
your
it all.
lovely wife.
Yeah, my kids and my wife.
Yeah, so go check out all that stuff. Gretch really one of the good ones out there. And we try to make sure you guys are checking out the people that are good. Obviously, every guest we have on, we support all their work, but make sure you are checking out what Gretch is doing. But guys, let's talk about some injuries that actually matter. And before we do that, hit the like button if you can, if you're watching on Pete's channel or the Splash Play channel. And of course, make sure you go give us 5 stars and a review on the Splash Play Apple podcast page, because that's how you get a guest spot on this show. Yesterday, we had our pal Willis is awesome on the show, our accountant and our pal doing some of the lineup builds that we do, our low ball and our Thursday night football showdown lineup builds, and that can be you on one of the upcoming episodes. So go leave us 5 stars and a review in Apple Podcasts. But injuries that actually matter, one that was last night that I think we need to touch on a little bit here. Dearness Johnson going for 146 yards and 22 carries versus the Broncos. Really the lone bright spot in a pretty ugly game all around there. And Gretch, I'll ask you first, how do you feel about the backfield in this spot with Nick Chubb maybe able to come back on their next game on Halloween against Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great story. Loved Dearness Johnson. Watched the AAF back in the day. Like, literally was watching every single game. So I liked the guy. You can go back to last year, though, when Chubb went down. Dearness got, I think, 13 carries in the game Chubb left. He got like 15 over the next 4 games that Chubb missed. They went very heavy with Kareem Hunt. And we saw that last week when Chubb was out. They went very heavy with Hunt until very late in the game when Hunt got hurt, but Johnson didn't really total much. Look, I mean, he looked good, but now we're getting all of this, we're getting these takes that are like Dearness Johnson is better than Nick Chubb and stuff like that. And I mean, it's getting a little obscene, I think. My take is, look, as soon as Chubb's ready, they're going to lean on Nick Chubb. They might mix in Johnson a little bit more, but I don't think you're going to get more than like 5 carries. So like, this is like a fun story, but it's going to be nothing in a month. Like, we're going to be like, oh yeah, remember Dearness Johnson Day? That was a fun Thursday night football game.
Peter, you feel any differently here? I know you've long been the defender that running backs do actually matter. You're often holding up signs outside of football stadiums saying a similar emotion. So how do you feel about seeing Dearness Johnson go off as the 3rd string running back?
Yeah, one of my main takeaways is, I don't know, it less has to do with, player eval and just more why it's important to move on these guys when they pop up on the waiver wire, because we got a lot of pushback when we were talking about Dearness Johnson on ship chasing, just being like, well, how many games are you going to get from him? Are you only going to get 1 game? Well, first of all, if you get 1 monster game, that is incredibly valuable at this point in the season. And then on top of that, there are, could be setbacks to Nick Chubb's return. There could be just forward momentum where they do give Dearness more than 5 touches a game or whatever. So I feel like you have lots of outs in those situations. And in general, I think we just need to keep churning and taking stabs on these guys because a couple of them inevitably turn into league winners. I don't know if that's Dearness Johnson, but yeah, he did look very, very good last night.
Definitely an injury situation to monitor moving forward. If Dearness Johnson is available in your league somehow, he escaped the waiver wire bids out there, maybe worth picking him up just in case Nick Chubb doesn't get back in, but that status is up in the air. Another injury that we do know about, I guess 2 injuries for the Bucs. Gronk is going to stay out for their game against Chicago, while Antonio Brown will also be on the sidelines. And Pete, I'll ask you first here from a GPP perspective, perhaps, or just in general. We got Mike Evans, you got Chris Godwin, you got Leonard Fournette. There's 3 guys who really do have pretty big shares of that Bucs offense. Would you choose one of these guys as being someone to build around? And if you had to choose one, let's say that you don't want to go that way, which of the 3 big, the big remaining Bucs besides Tom Brady with Evans, Godwin, and Fournette, who would you want to play the most?
Yeah, I'm actually bummed out about the AB getting scratched because Evans was looking like one of the best tournament plays to me. He was going to come in like sub 5%. People were really excited about AB and moderately excited about Godwin. I assume that ownership now balances out in both Evans and Godwin are moderately owned. So I still prefer Evans because I think at 5,900, we're going to see Godwin probably reach kind of Calvin Ridley, AJ Brown levels of ownership as just a really, really good play without AB in the mix there. So maybe paying up to be slightly contrarian with Evans, but I mean, both are going to be great plays now.
Gretch, how are you feeling about the Bucks threesome here that's left behind with three guys who have produced in pretty high levels in various spots, including Fournette, that I think people slept on coming into the year, and he's really been an emergent player, getting a lot of touches per game. So if you had to choose between Evans, Godwin, and Fournette, which guy would you play?
I mean, I'll never play Leonard Fournette. You'll have to pry him from my cold dead hands. No. I mean, obviously, Fournette's been very valuable. He's getting the types of touches that matter. He's currently tied with his career high in yards per carry with 4.3, and his career high in yards per target was 7.1, which are both like okay, like sort of good. But like it's good that he's been efficient and not inefficient like he typically has been. But yeah, getting the receptions, getting some touchdowns. I don't think he's going to continue to score at a high rate. The Bucks pass at a really, really high rate in the red zone. To me, it's looked since the beginning of the year like Tom Brady really wants the MVP. Like they're going to continue to throw in the red zone in my mind. I like Evans and Godwin sort of equally. It is tough to sort of pick on a weekly basis who it's going to be between the Bucks receivers, but the other guys out, I do think it consolidates, and so it makes them both very interesting. I'll be playing the ownership game kind of as Pete was alluding to.
You definitely want to track the ownership here no matter where you are. It does look like, according to the Osmo ownership, we do have Mike Evans under 5% was the most recent projection they had. They had Chris Godwin under 12%. So we'll see if those numbers take a big jump upwards heading into Sunday now that we know the Antonio Brown and Gronk situations. That same game, we got Allen Robinson also officially questionable in a game where you think they need to pass Tampa Bay for all the reasons that Gretch just talked about there. So Gretch, I'll ask you, Darnell Mooney, a guy who has emerged, has been better than Allen Robinson so far in the year. Would you trust him as a solo wide receiver one where you don't have A-Rob there potentially to draw away some of that attention?
Well, yeah, the Bucks are pretty beat up at corner. We know that. And so it's I'm not like concerned about him being the number one in the sense that like he'll draw more attention necessarily. He's been good at getting open. There's just bigger concerns with the offense. I mean, you can definitely see Matt Nagy go in and try to run against be basically the first team who tries to run against the Bucks. Obviously, we're hoping that they don't do that. At the same time, the Bucks have an incredible pass rush, and the Bears don't have a very good offense. We saw what happened in Cleveland in Justin Fields' first start, where the Browns' D-line was just in his lap on basically every drop back. And so this game feels a little bit like it could be a pretty big blowout. At the same time, like if Robinson's out, I think they're going to have to throw a decent amount. I don't think that we are, going forward going to see Fields continue to be as essentially as bad as he has been for fantasy. I just don't. There's not a lot of ways that he can continue to be. I mean, essentially, he's been bad in terms of team pass rate. He's been bad in terms of his scramble rate, which improved a little bit last week. Bad in terms of efficiency, really. The touchdowns have all leaned towards rushing TDs as opposed to passing or his rushing. Obviously, dual threat quarterbacks tend to account for a lot of the TDs in the offense. There's all these elements to what has been going wrong for Fields from a fantasy perspective that have been really kind of sub average for what you'd expect from a dual threat quarterback like him. And I think some of those things, maybe they won't all regress positively all at the same time, and probably not in the near future because things aren't looking great in Chicago, but some of those things have to improve at some point. If they can protect decently enough, I do think Fields has been pretty accurate. He's been good at ball placement so far. I think he could have a decent game, and in turn, it would be a positive for Mooney, obviously.
Pete, how about you? Would you trust Mooney here if there's no Robinson? And it's worth pointing out, too, the Bucks do blitz at a really high rate, just shy of 40% on the year. And also Fields has been terrible under pressure in a way that I talk about my color-coded sheet. It is all red for the pressure stats here. He's got a 27.2 QB rating when pressured. So not to stack the deck too much, Pete, but would you trust yourself some Darnell Mooney?
Yeah, I was just talking to Osmo about this stack and if you needed to force a bring back with it, because I do think like Brady with one of Evans or Brown, and then you could even toss like OJ Howard in it, looks like a pretty nice stack. I mean, Allen Robinson, he looks like a poor points per dollar play. But if you removed him and shifted some targets over to Mooney, I guess it's fine. I'm seeing him around 11 to 12%. And I do worry if you eliminate Robinson, if Darnell Mooney gets steamed as kind of like the popular bring back in that case. And then it's like, well, would you use Cole Kmet at 3,000? It's like, I'd rather just onslaught it and play OJ Howard instead of Cole Kmet and try to play it through the Bucks. So I don't know. I'm not too excited about a bring back here.
Yeah, it's definitely an ugly spot, though, as the Crystal Ball told us on yesterday's segment that Justin Fields apparently going to be in the Millie Maker winning lineup. So, just take the risk there. He can't be any worse. That's the main thing I would say when looking at the numbers. Dallas Goedert going to be back for Philly this week in their first game without Zach Ertz on the roster. Pete, I'll ask you, does Goddard's return or Ertz's departure move the needle at all for you in this spot for Philly going into Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, Goddard's price definitely followed as far as kind of the Ertz vacating there, but he does look like a good play to me. I think Jalen Hurts is one of the best DFS plays this week on DraftKings, so I like the idea of stacking him up with one of Devonta Smith or Goddard. And I mean, I'm curious what Gretch thinks, but this has to be a fairly big bump for Goddard once you eliminate Zach Ertz, fighting for targets with him.
Gretch, what do you think about that one?
I absolutely agree with that. The like last week we had Goddard out and Ertz played a ton. And we've seen the Eagles go a little bit more three wide receiver. I think they'll go more 3 wide receiver, but I mean, like the bottom line is like there's they've run a lot of 2 tight end sets, and neither Goddard or Ertz has had like huge routes run rates, and now they don't have essentially a second tight end. I mean, people are talking about like Tyree Jackson and stuff, but I think you have to expect Goddard runs a really high, like he gets a routes bump immediately. And I think that's, essentially all you have to say about it. Like that's notable. He's good on a per out basis. There's issues with the offense, obviously. Like Hurts doesn't necessarily look fantastic as a passer. But yeah, it's a clear bump. I think it's a bump for the secondary receivers too, though. Like Quez Watkins is going to run more routes as well.
Maybe Jalen Reagor finally does something useful, as Pete's been hoping for the last season and change. And worth pointing out, edjsports.com, of course, the sister site of Football Outsiders, where they do run 100,000 simulations for each game, does have this being a 54-point line compared to the books having it as a 48.5 line. So maybe a little bit of an edge there, no pun intended, to stack this game up a little bit more. Giants, another NFC East team, Saquon Barkley, Kenny Golladay, Kadarius Toney, all out as we speculated yesterday for their game versus Carolina. And Pete, this is the thing that you were worried about here. Sterling Shepard's ownership could soar as a result. Does seem like he's one of the top value plays. Osmo, ETR, it seems like the ownership projections are moving upwards for Sterling Shepard. So is he the kind of guy you'd want to play in some of the higher dollar lineups that you would build this weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be out on him if his ownership gets up over 20%, which it looks like we're definitely heading there. I mean, he was already projecting at like 16%, and now we get Toney and Golladay and Barkley officially ruled out. So yeah,
Pete, you're muted.
He muted himself in the middle of talking.
He knew the tape was so bad. He was just like, let me just drop off here. I don't need to.
Am I back?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. It just
you sound like you're underwater now.
Yeah, you got your underwater thing going.
Classic Pete bit.
How
about now?
There you go. Now you're less underwater. Now you're like above water, maybe still, some water in your lungs. It's not fully out.
What I'm trying to say is don't play Sterling Shepard.
Oh, can we do a Sesame Street bit where we do Sesame Street voices, Pete?
Please no. I'm done doing voices. You make me do voices on Monday shows and Thursday shows. Fridays are for the boys, Spags.
Yeah, that's what it's known for. That's the branding we're going to come up with entirely for ourselves. It's not tied to any former employers of mine. Gretch, how about you in this spot? Sterling Shepard, the guy who has had the upside in the past, has had the volume for the Giants. Are you willing to go his way if the ownership is really high, given that they really don't have anybody else to throw to at this point?
Well, he had a hamstring setback, right? Is that what, I mean, I kind of feel like he doesn't play, right?
I didn't see that. I know they announced the other guys being out today, and I didn't see anything about him not being available. Maybe it could be something.
Yeah, it looks like he suffered a setback yesterday, Thursday. He's still questionable, but you never like to see those midweek setbacks, especially on something like a hammy, which is going to change the discussion in an interesting way. Because if he's out too, you like. Who the hell's going to catch passes for
John Ross?
Dante Pettis.
Yeah. I mean, it's just all cheap players at that point. I mean, Darius Slayton, is he out? Were you saying he's among the people?
No, I think he should be available, yeah.
Okay, so would be kind of interesting to me. But yeah, Pettis got 11 targets or whatever last week. Ross, I've always been a big fan of, but even with everybody out, is really struggling to even draw targets. Like he had 2 last week, and Pettis had the 11, which was pretty telling. I think they ran vaguely similar route shares. Pettis was a little bit higher, but yeah, I mean, maybe there's some cheap value in New York. Pettis is the guy who drew a bunch of targets, but if he winds up really highly owned, then I'm probably not going to be on Dante Pettis at like 30% ownership.
Yeah,
20%.
Carolina, definitely has regressed a little bit from that early hot start with their defense, really not allowing anything, but they are still giving up just over 300 yards a game. So it's not like they're a particularly fertile matchup. Something to keep in mind that maybe it might be a bit of fool's gold going to the Giants this weekend. One injury too that could be important. Latavius Murray wasn't at practice again in Baltimore, and Gretch, this has been a weird backfield all year where a lot of people, including Pete, and I think me too, I would say Tyson Williams seems like he deserves more of a role. And do they play him now? Do you give a bump to Le'Veon Bell? Do you give a bump to Freeman? Who would you trust in Baltimore if we get no Latavius Murray?
I don't think I would trust anyone. Le'Veon Bell has looked, I would say, the worst, I mean, both statistically and like to my eye. And so I would be a little bit more optimistic about Devonta Freeman than him. But then, yeah, I mean, Tyson's going to be active if Latavius is inactive. I think it's just been sort of a numbers game. You can look at how, they made him inactive and made Le'Veon active. Then they made Le'Veon inactive again and made Tyson. And they've been going back and forth. I think they'll have him up. And if they have him up, I would expect that he'll get 8 or 9 carries just because like everyone does every week. And so, I mean, yeah, it's kind of tough. I'd probably play Tyson before either of the old guys.
Pete, how about you? Who would you give a bump to in Baltimore? And if it's Rashad Bateman, I swear to God, I'm going to come for you.
Rashad Bateman is the best value play on the slate this week. And the only thing we have going for us is we were talking about this in a group chat, Gretch, Leone, Corain, and I was we need Dante Pettis to become the chalk wide receiver on the slate. So Rashad Bateman isn't as attractive. But oh yeah, Bateman's going to be so popular with Lamar Jackson this week.
Yeah, so that's an interesting spot to keep an eye on there for Baltimore. Certainly some production can go around. And speaking of production, we're going to do, of course, as we always try to get to, a special guest segment here. And we hinted at it a little bit up top with some of the best ball talk. So we're going to call this one, Pete, the title I have on our run sheet is Stealing Best Balls, which I feel like implies that we're some sort of hamburglar taking people's testicles in a way that I don't enjoy, but does kind of fit our various bits. But I'll let you drive this one a little more, Pete, because
that's like a normal Friday activity.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. You just go around, you tickle some testicles, you steal a few that are looking particularly good. But Pete, how should we approach this one? Because I think we want to talk about, what would be the things that would make the best ball lineup, just knowing what we know from 6 weeks here. So how do you want to guide this conversation?
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to, if we were able to kind of Frankenstein together our ideal best ball lineup going forward based on what were the kind of ADPs back in August. So I think there's obviously some gimmies, what Derrick Henry's doing as a round 1 guy, you would want him. Cooper Kupp as a round 4 guy, I mean, just has been an absolute smash. But I thought we could maybe play this out as if not just the banking the production that's already happened, but the team we would want going forward.
So that's an important point. Are we saying it would be the best ball team, including what's already happened, or are we just saying from this point forward?
From this point forward, but using the same ADP that stuff kind of solidified at right before the season. Okay. So, within reason.
Yeah, it couldn't be a splash play segment if it weren't needlessly complicated, and that's what we strive for here. So I guess, Pete, I know the one thing I would say for me, and I know you mentioned in our pre-show prep that Derrick Henry in the first round might be one you would go to. I think I would push even more towards 0 RB than we have, than you guys have definitely preached all summer long. But how would you want to handle that first round, knowing what we know now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different viable options still, as far as I think you could take Henry. I think you take Travis Kelce. I think you could take Adams, and I think you could take Tyreek Hill. Like, I feel like all of those guys would be viable first round picks. Gretch, who would be your guy?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at this sort of where we're at now in terms of what strategies have worked so far. And it is interesting if you look at the top scorers at any of the positions, it is mostly the higher drafted players, but we do have a receiver, some more middle round types. There's not a lot of, clear late round running back hits yet, but there have been a lot of spot players. I think probably in best ball, you'd want an elite running back near the top. or Kelsey. I think you can cover some of the receiver upside with some of the breakouts in the later rounds.
Kelsey's interesting because he has kind of underperformed. I feel like I would want to go like Adams, Hill, which might be tough to do. I guess you probably have to be at the turn, but if you get Adams, Hill, and Cup, I feel like that's a really strong first 3 rounds, Pete. And I know that's, that fits the ethos we talked about in the season, but I was surprised to see you mention Derrick Henry as a direction you'd want to go, because that just still feels like, even with him running about as hot as can be, still feels like a move you wouldn't want to make.
I mean, it's more just talking about how, heading into the season, we all agreed Christian McCaffrey was the undisputed 101, and that there's a pretty big gap because he's the one running back that could really separate from the rest of the position. And I think right now, Derrick Henry is showing that he's the one running back that can really separate. So I would still be interested in anchor RB builds with Derrick Henry, and then hammering wide receiver and tight end for a long time.
So the thing I would say, Spags, I totally agree with your first 3 receivers thing, but I'm putting a lot of focus on the fact that, like, as you get into this running back dead zone, as I like to call it, and everyone likes to call it, you don't want to be taking any running backs. Like, as we go through this from rounds like 4 to 9, there's not a lot of running backs that we would even want to be discussing. They've been all bad. So that has been one of the clearest things, I think. Miles Sanders has not been good. David Montgomery has gotten hurt. You can talk about Javonte Williams going forward, I think, but even the young guys have not really hit yet that were going in that range. You had like the Trey Sermons on the back half of that range that are not hitting. Mike Davis was the guy that we were all kind of hating on all offseason as the quintessential running back dead zone guy, and he has not hit. It has been really not a good start. Myles Gaskin's been so up and down. Not a good start for those running backs that are going in those ranges. So we're definitely going to be building, I think, with receivers, potentially an elite quarterback in those ranges. That makes me lean more towards Henry personally.
So a running back, I think we have some questions to ask too, but let's start with the QB then, because who would be the QB you'd feel the most comfortable with? And I'll say the best team that I did. I only did one puppy 2 team because I just wasn't mentally in the headspace to be doing more lineups there. And the one that I actually is running pretty well, I think might be my best overall underdog lineup, is a Matt Stafford stack with all the other Rams going around. That's one approach you could take, Pete, but I feel like going to Josh Allen route, going, one of these high floor QBs, Lamar Jackson maybe, could be the way to get it done. So what would you do at QB if you knew what we know now about the best ball?
Yeah, I assume if we redraft that those guys get even pushed up more than they did, in the preseason. But I do want one of those elite quarterbacks, but because, like, if I'm looking at ADP and having to choose, like, I might even try to push it a little more and grab like a Jalen Hurts, where he was going in round 8 or 9. I think last week was like the low for him, and he still had 2 rushing touchdowns and 40 plus yards rushing. That was like the low for him from a passing standpoint. So I would be wanting to target one of those guys that have that rushing upside. I do think that's going to be incredibly valuable come playoff time. So yeah, give me Jalen Hurts in my Frankenstein build.
Gretch, how about you at QB? What would you want to do there? Do you want to take a Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar tier guy, or would you want to go a little bit cheaper?
I'd be in that tier, I think, especially if we're talking about like where they were going during draft season. I think in that, 5th round range, Mahomes is going a little higher, but it's sort of like whichever, and Josh Allen was going kind of high. So probably whichever of Kyler or Lamar you tell me is going later, I'm going to tell you I want that guy. Kyler has looked fantastic as a passer. Has clearly taken a step forward as a passer. Still running, hasn't been running a ton the last couple of weeks. Did have a rushing touchdown called back by penalty. Either last week or the week prior, just very recently, weeks 1 through 3 had a rushing TD each game. Lamar, you have the heavy increase in pass rate, and he's looked pretty efficient himself as a passer. He obviously had that monster game on Monday night where he breaks the all-time record for completion percentage in a 40 attempt game in only his 3rd career 40 attempt game. Just an insane stat for a guy like Lamar Jackson to be breaking that record. I think he only has more production going forward as basically the entirety of Baltimore's offense. So for me, it'd probably be Kyler and Lamar at cost.
Now, running back, I think this is where you could really have gotten away with going the most hardcore version of zero RB, where you could have had Khalil Herbert. Madison was a guy that I had a lot just because I wasn't getting Dalvin Cook in some of the drafts I was doing and was happy to get him. But Pete, how would you handle running back if we could redo it all now? And also, if you have a team that, by the way, fits this criteria of what we're talking about, feel really good about yourself, whether it's on Underdog or DraftKings or anywhere else out there. But what would you do at running back, Pete? Because it really does feel like this year, I'm sure it's the case every year, but zero RB does feel like it could have worked if you just hit the right guys, that crescendo at the right times?
The first thing I'd do is I'd go back in my time machine and I'd tell Underdog to classify Cordell Patterson as a running back instead of a wide receiver. And then I would have been tacking him on as my 18th round pick in a ton of drafts. Like I said, I do still, I would be interested in going with that anchor build, either kind of with Henry earlier, or I think Eckler and Najee at the 1-2 turn have held up pretty nicely. I mean, the thing that's tough about the best ball stuff is like guys like, I guess Elijah Mitchell was drafted a little bit, but guys like Dearness Johnson and Khalil Herbert like weren't really getting drafted in these contests. But yeah, you definitely load up on Chuba Hubbard. He was one of the premier handcuffs that was available late, so he would definitely be part of any draft plan. And I still want to be taking like Javonte Williams in the 5th, 6th round where he was going. We saw last night him really flashing. He scored that passing touchdown, and it's been a slow burn. And I know you don't like hearing this, Spags, but the Javonte Williams takeover is coming slowly by slowly each week.
Did we not see the Melvin Gordon pass catching touchdown, that 93% catch rate on full display there as he got his? So that's what I would say. But Gretch, how would you handle running back here? And obviously I think we could both say it probably would not include Mike Davis now.
I think Pete hit it pretty well. I would add DeAndre Swift, I think is got to be in the discussion. Darrell Henderson, depending on sort of, where he was going. And he hasn't been fully healthy thus far. He missed a game. He's left others early. But I do think going forward, Darrell Henderson's going to look like a very good pick. He kind of settled in like the 4th round. And I said from the moment that Akers went down, I thought he should be like a mid-2nd to early 3rd. I was pretty shocked all along that he never got steamed up that high, but he did wind up in the 3rd and in some leagues later on. But he's been getting basically all of the work whenever he's played, and that's been pretty huge. Week 2 he leaves early, and Sony Michel, all of his touches come after Henderson leaves. Week 3 Henderson missed. Week 4, or whichever game it was against Seattle, almost all of Sony Michel's touches came on a 2nd quarter drive when Henderson was getting checked out for an arm injury. So it's been like Michel's, I think some people think, is more involved than he actually is, because Henderson has been a little banged up at times. But when Henderson's been healthy, they've been really, really heavy on Henderson. So I'm pretty excited about him going forward in an offense that's going to be great for running back points.
Yeah, I think that was one, too, that we were pushing people towards. And I know you guys talked about on Ship Chasing as well when that Cam Akers news came out, that Henderson was the move. And that's definitely one, if you guys got there, hopefully that is paying some dividends. Tight end's a weird one. And I know, Gretch, you talked about Travis Kelce up top. I feel like if you got Dawson Knox, I don't know that it holds up the rest of the year. We kind of saw him, Emmanuel Sanders, start to come back down to earth last week. And you got to expect you're going to see more of a share go Diggs and Beasley's way moving forward. But I think if you have Dawson Knox right now, you have to feel pretty good, because you probably got him in towards the end of the draft, definitely lower than, I would say, probably 15, 16 tight ends.
Yeah, except he's got the broken hand now, and we don't know how long he's out.
Oh,
but
that's
I completely agree. I think when he's back, he's going to be great. Dalton Schultz would be the other one that makes a lot of sense. But other than those two, maybe Noah Fant, who has looked pretty solid at times. I think you, outside of those guys, you're really sticking to the top 6 probably.
I'll toss in Gesicki there as well. Yeah, in like Fant and Gesicki were always kind of in that same range, like 10th, 11th round pick. I guess Gesicki was going a little bit after Fant, but yeah, it's a wasteland. And obviously we've had some injuries with like Logan Thomas, and his kind of ADP brother was Tyler Higbee, who's really underwhelmed there. So there were definitely lots of, it was a minefield at tight end.
I feel like Darren Waller, he's got to be better in the back half of the season, but he was a guy that I got a lot just because of the positioning and Kelce always being gone. And I thought, I could shore up tight end, and he's been just so disappointing in a way that I didn't expect just in terms of the volume. So that's one guy I would definitely mark down a little bit more that I have too many shares of. I'm sure he could certainly bounce back in the second half of the season, but that's the guy that stands out to me. Any other final observations, Peter, Gretch? I feel like, we talked about a lot here, and you guys, this is something that is so near dear to your heart from the literal hours, the Malcolm Gladwell certified 10,000 hours of drafting you did. Any other observations you guys have about how it would have gone differently?
I mean, one thing I'd say, like we just listed off a ton of late round running backs that have, had a glow up, so to speak. But man, I can't think about too many wide receivers late that I wish I would have taken. Kadarius Toney would be the one I wish I would have more exposure to. Obviously, he's going to miss this week, but he seems like he's going to find his way into winning best ball rosters if he can stay on the field. But are there any late round wide receivers that you can even think of beyond that?
Well, there aren't from like a points perspective. I mean, I actually looked at this in one of my intros to Stealing Signals this week. And one of the things we said when you stretch really at receiver through the running back dead zone is that there's kind of a cutoff where you want to get most of your receivers by, I know the guys that we were often saying were like where Visca was going and where Debo was going and where Tyler Boyd was going, which was like for most of the offseason, like the 9th round. Some of those guys were up in like the 5th round by the end of draft season. But there's really nobody that was going outside of that kind of first 10 rounds at receiver that has been really, really consistently productive. Sterling Shepard's been good when he's been on the field. He's the closest. Christian Kirk has had some big games as well, but those guys are not from a, points per game or from a total points perspective. They're not really anywhere near contending with sort of the top of the leaderboards. And it is interesting that Mike Williams has come up and Cooper Kupp has come up. Debo has come up. Marquise Brown looks great. All those guys were lower on the receiver list, in that first 10 round range, but they were still very much in that range where we were like, look, you want to get a lot of receivers by this point. That was the point. You wanted redundancy. You wanted those players. That's where the good receivers are, and that's where they've shown to be. I mean, I think that's been a very clear takeaway so far.
Also in chat, Danny P and our accountant Willis pointing out AJ Green being a guy that apparently is propping up some best ball teams out there. And I would say this would be the one thing. Obviously, there's a lot of failures that we could talk about that Pete certainly rode me on all summer long about the older guys. But I would say AJ Green was a guy coming into a role. You knew that they were going to treat him with some degree of value. People just kind of shit on him because he was an older player. And Pete, I know you expect it to come down a little bit as the season goes on. Rondale Moore seizing more of a share. But for guys like Danny P, apparently he's keeping his best ball team alive.
Yeah, I mean, that is the thing too with, I see mentioning Emmanuel Sanders, who is another guy that has had some nice spike weeks as well. I think the thing that's tricky is trying to find a blend of those guys, right? Because I will not be surprised whatsoever if AJ Green kind of fades a little bit more in the second half, where it's like you want a guy like AJ Green the first 6 to 7 weeks who's giving you some of those weeks before he falls off. And then you want a guy like Kadarius Toney who might miss the first 6 weeks and then can finish really strong. So I think one of my takeaways there too is just thinking of making sure you have a blend of type of production. And we talk about that with running backs too. You want some pass catchers that can just give you a nice floor. You want some pure handcuffs who could, step into massive roles. You want some rookies who could just grow their role by way of playing well. So I think that's a thing to think about for receivers as well.
And one thing I would just say with that, like Emmanuel Sanders has been great. But I'm looking at PPR right now. He has 15 PPR points per game. That's not bad. I'm not saying that's bad. Sterling Shepard's actually at 15.8. He's missed a little time. Some of these other guys we're talking about are lower. AJ Green's at 12.2. Those are not bad numbers, but that's outside Emmanuel Sanders is right at wide receiver 24. It's basically what I'm referencing is the guys that are actually near the top, the guys that are actually highly, highly productive, 18 points per game and higher. There's a handful of guys over 20 points per game. Those guys have all been, you're getting some splash weeks from the late round receivers. I didn't mean to, imply that you're not, but really what it comes down to at receiver is not just a couple of big plays, a couple of touchdowns, stringing together some big performances. It comes down to, can you consistently earn targets every single week? That's a big stat that I look at as targets per route run. Do you have the ability to be elite at earning targets on a routes run basis to where you can be productive week in and week out? And what is the most highly volatile position for scoring? We've seen AJ Green spike. We've also seen him have some really bad games. And so there's going to be receivers that spike, certainly, and we'll see if they can continue that. We've only had 6 weeks. At the same time, the guys that have been consistently able to earn volume have all been upper-level draft picks.
Yep. So it's definitely some interesting game theory to keep in mind moving forward. Obviously, these guys will be covering it pretty in depth. Whenever there is a best ball tournament out there, Ship Chasing will be there. So definitely check that out if you are a best ball fan. I know people saying best ball's easy. I think it's probably not as easy as it seems if you are a person out there who's luck boxing one lineup or two. But we got to talk about the present now. We got week 7. We got our troll equity play of the week. But I got a panda for likes here. If you're watching on Pete's channel or the Splash Play channel, please hit that like button. Helps all your favorite creators get seen by more people. And that's always the goal of what we're we're doing here. So hit that like button and, of course, subscribe to the channel. And again, make sure to give us 5 stars and a review in Apple Podcasts for Splash Play. Helps us out a bunch, and it helps get you a guest ticket onto this show so you can appear and be a star, just like Gretch is being on Splash Play. So come hang out with us and give us 5 stars and a review in Apple Podcasts. Pete, troll play of the week. It's that time where we try to pinpoint a guy who could screw over a large portion of fantasy players' lineups. And there might be some obvious choices based on who we talked about so far. So I will let you go first, Pete. Set the bar.
Yeah, it's one thing I'm realizing about the troll plays is I feel like we have the same troll plays every week because the same guys end up being the chalk. We've had a ton of Cooper Kupp and Darrell Henderson. We've had a ton of Devontae Adams. So we're going to have to get creative. And I'm going to get really off the board here. I'm seeing ETR has the Arizona Cardinals defense as the highest projected ownership play on the entire slate at 30% right now. Everyone is very excited to jam the Cardinals against the Texans. I'm saying Mr. Mills and Brandon Cooks go nuclear here. Total troll all of the Cardinals chalk slappies, and they only have 4 DK points thanks to a Texans offense explosion.
Yeah, almost 20% expected ownership for the Cardinals, according to Osmo's ownership projections, which are a good reference point addition to ETR's, Roto Grinders as well. Gretch, you heard Pete setting the bar. They're going different, going with the defense. Who do you think could end up trolling everybody in DFS this weekend?
Yeah, one of the guys that's looking like a really good sort of points per dollar play and is going to carry some ownership because of that is Miles Sanders. I'm going to say Kenneth Gainwell is going to be the troll play. Gainwell has been very lightly used the last 2 weeks. He was at least at 30% snaps each of the first 4 weeks and very productive, multiple catches in every game. Solid yardage numbers, at least up over like 40 yards in every game, or at least over 30, it looks like. He's had some games where he's had substantially more than that, up around 90 yards from scrimmage, a couple of touchdowns in those first 4 games. Last 2 weeks, he's been below 25% snap share. Looks like he has 25 total yards, 1 catch in each game. Barely played over the last 2 games. It's been like they've been trying to get Miles Sanders into more of a feature role and get him more touches. But I don't think there's really a clear reason why they went away from Gainwell, who has been very productive in his own right. And I do think we're still in a situation where at any given week, essentially Gainwell can play 30+% of the snaps. I think look, you can go down the running backs don't matter train all you want, but Gainwell, very good prospect. Basically, I'll just say I think he's close to as good as Miles Sanders. And so I think we're going to see him not be as low of a snap share in most games going forward. I think that's kind of a fluky thing based on just sort of how Philly operates. They don't give a lot of touches to the backs. They've been trying to feature Sanders. I think we'll see a little bit more Gainwell here. And I'll say that he actually catches more passes. He gets the TD. He's done some of that stuff in the past already. And Sanders winds up busting.
I will say for my troll play, and I think that's an interesting one, Pete, given that your crystal balls was all touting Miles Sanders yesterday. Here we are. Finally, an expert comes in that's not in your office. And now they can tell you Miles Sanders maybe not a great play.
You know what? I can't speak for her and kind of what she sees in her crystal ball. I like the Kenneth Gainwell play.
All right, well, either way, there's some options there if you want to play Sanders or you want to get some shares of Gainwell. Probably a wise move. For me, I am seeing one guy jump out in ownership that he's going to come through at some point, but I will say it's not going to be this week. Calvin Ridley is going to be very highly owned. People are expecting him to go. And Pete, you know where I like to go when people are going to Calvin Ridley or he's just not available. Big Kyle Pitts coming in one more time, riding off the high of being a crystal ball pick who came through in London. And this week, Pete, I think he's going to start to cement himself once more, maybe even better than Calvin Ridley. We'll find out against Miami.
What was that at the end? We'll find out against Miami.
I thought that was a Mike Davis pick coming as well.
I did too, honestly. He's learned his lesson, though, from that one.
I was thinking it, honestly, but I saw it and was like, I can't keep... how much of a sunken cost fallacy do I need with Mike Davis at this point?
Yeah. I just, it's the gift that keeps on giving. We need to book more of these season-long bets next year, Spags.
Yeah, there's hope for the Kyle Pitts movement more than there's for the Mike Davis movement. That's what I would say. But it's that time, guys. We're going to go game by game for all of Sunday's games for week 7 and give our ride or die picks. So please hit that like button because our picks get stronger and more adept as we go. And Pete, Gretch was on last year and we were doing a more reasonable version of this game. I know you explained it to him in our DM, but explain it to both Gretch and everybody out there how we are handling the ride or die picks this year.
Yeah, the 2021 version of Ride or Die has evolved into a meta game that involves lots of negotiation. We'll each toss out our favorite bet from the game. It can be DFS related. It could be a player scoring more points than another. It could be them appearing in the winning Millie Maker lineup. It could be a sports bet, a prop bet. And then we will litigate how many points that is worth. Unfortunately, our system is very rigid and you can only receive 1, 3, or 10 points. Sometimes there's something that would warrant a 5 or 6 pointer. We don't have that. And then the judge and jury needs to make the decision whether we're rounding up or rounding down. It is always a good time. That is Ride or Die.
There we go. So, Gretch, I hope you're ready for this one because we are starting it off with Washington getting 20.3 implied points. Green Bay getting 28.3 implied points. The line and edge sports look exactly the same as the books pretty much. So, nothing noteworthy there. And, Gretch, you could choose whatever you want here. So, if you want to go super aggressive, get weird with it, maybe some Randall Cobb doubles up Devontae Adams. I don't want to guide you there, but if that's what you want to do, feel free to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to, as we go, get a little bit more hot takey. But on this one, I was seeing the same thing Pete was with the Arizona ownership. This looks like a pretty slow game. And Washington has actually been one of the worst matchups for opposing defenses for whatever reason, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw that and I was like, that doesn't seem right. But Heineke isn't taking a lot of sacks. He has thrown some picks. I'm going to say Green Bay is the top scoring DST on the week. Even in a slow game, they get a pick 6, and they're a good little pivot off Arizona.
Yeah, Heineke only getting sacked 2.2% of the time. It looks like a league average 3% interception rate, so there is something there. Pete, what do you want in this game?
How many points if Terry McLaurin outscores Devontae Adams?
This is what you mean by negotiation? It's before you make the pick?
Yeah, there's lots of ways you do it. Sometimes I'll just demand a certain amount of points. Sometimes I'll, we're early though, so it's a dialogue.
There is sometimes, to use the stealing best balls kind of analogy. There is a little bit of foreplay sometimes that goes into this, where we just got to see where the barrier is, see if there's a safe word that comes up. I would say though, Pete, that's a 3-pointer.
That's a 3.
All right,
it's a high volatility position.
All right. I can't sneak anything by you guys on this Friday afternoon. I'll take it though.
I will go a different direction entirely, and I'm going to hope this is a 10-pointer based on the projections. J.D. McKissick, highest scoring skill position player in this game. Is that a 10-pointer, Pete?
Yes. He's got to outscore Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson. Yeah, that's a 10-pointer.
Okay, good.
What about my DST one? What are you guys giving that? Top DST on the slate.
Top DST. That's a 10. Yeah, anything that's like the entire slate is almost always a 10, I feel like.
Nice.
Yeah, or you could just say gets in the Millie Maker winning lineup. Like that's also an easy way to do that. But then, sometimes there's the game theory part of it. That's the issue with Ride or Die picks. You could be completely right and still end up wrong, which is the one thing I've observed enough at how this game is mutated. Speaking of games that could end up completely wrong about: Atlanta, 25 implied points, Miami, 22.5 implied points. Maybe the last game for Tua in a Dolphins uniform. Who knows? Pete, what do you want in this one?
Spags loves getting his shots in at Tua here.
That's a noteworthy news item. It's in the ESPN headlines.
This story is just so stupid. I'm so sick
It's a
of
narrative item that people expect to hear when talking about this game, and maybe a Tua soiree. Who knows?
All right. I want to say how many points. Man, this breaks my heart. Myles Gaskin, how many points do I get if he outscores Calvin Ridley?
Oh, that's 10.
Given how Ridley's been so bad, though, and Gaskin's getting targeted probably more than Ridley, I feel like that's a 3. It's honestly like a 6 or a 7, but we don't have those, Pete. They're out of stock.
All right, give me 10 if Myles Gaskin outscores Calvin Ridley by 2 points or more.
How about 2.5?
Fine.
Okay, that's a 10-pointer. Gretch, do you see the negotiation?
There really is a meta game here. Myles Gaskin, who had 7 touches last week, and a few weeks ago only had 2 touches. He did have the big game in between there. Needs to outscore Calvin Ridley, who's going to be one of the chalkiest receivers, by 2.5 points to get to 10.
I mean, when you put it that way, yeah. Spags, I'm going back down to 1.5 points.
No, you can't. We already agreed.
Gretch just said that was
virtually shook hands.
We didn't shake anything. I wouldn't touch your grubby, dirty little hands.
Oh, I just showered. So my hair is flatter than usual. I was like, I've been trying to push up the bun during the show. Anyway, I guess I can go second here, and I will take You know what? Fuck you, Pete. I'll say Calvin Ridley doubles up Myles Gaskin for 10 points.
Yeah, okay.
That's a 1.
No,
That's a 3.
That's a 3.
It's a 3. Fine, I'll take it as a 3.
Yeah.
I mean, because you say doubles up, Gaskin has literally had 2 of his last 3 games where he scored like fewer than 3 points. I think it is, or something.
Okay, get your logic out of here, Gretch. That's not what the game's about. What do you want in this one, Gretch?
I'm gonna take another troll pick on this one and say Cordero Patterson priced up, gonna go under 10% owned, will catch 5 passes and score a touchdown. Because he can't keep up his touchdown rate, and he can't keep earning so many targets per the limited amount of routes he's running. 5 receptions and a TD. He's a key part of their offense.
So to me, Spags, that's like a 5-pointer. Are we giving him a guest boost?
We can give him a guess 10, I think.
He's done that enough. I don't even know if that's worth a 10. Come on.
I have to point out.
I'll argue against it. I just thought it was a funny one.
Now you're knocking your head down. All right, it's a 3. So we all tried to go for 10s and settled with 3. Or no, I did get the 10 on mine.
Yes, you did. But
okay.
yeah,
Right.
because of course you just forced your way to it with your cult of personality, as always. Classic. I have to point out, and I mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago, that I, out of frustration, built projections. Just so I had something to compare to everything else I'm using. And my projection for Cordero Patterson this week is just shy of 22 fantasy points because I go off of the total yardage and touchdown shares. He has 27% of the team's total yardage and 42% of their touchdowns right now.
Yeah, if you look at it from those types of perspectives, he looks great. I mean, they're using him.
Yeah, like too much in a way that's illogical and makes no sense, but we'll see if it happens for one more week. Either way, next game up, Kansas City 31 implied points, Tennessee 26.5 implied points. The Edge Sports line for this one, though, is closer to a 1-point spread instead of a 5-point spread, so maybe some value in chasing a closer game in this one. And I think I'm due to go first for this, and I don't love that. You know what? This is one that I think is going to be tough because of the ownership, so Pete will allow it. But Tyreek Hill in the Millie Maker winning lineup, is that a 10-pointer, Pete? It has to be because that's always a 10-pointer.
Then why are you asking?
Because I don't know. Sometimes
it sounds like you feel like you're pulling a fast one over, and you know
it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be a 10-pointer based on the rules, but sometimes you go like, oh, he's too good. You can't do that.
How low do I have to go on Derrick Henry's points to get a 10-pointer? To go under what number?
If he scores, no.
If
he scores under 13 DraftKings points.
13? This dude scores 13 in his sleep.
Then it sounds like that's not a bet you want to make.
Spags, can I get you to 15?
See, the chat says under 10 for a 10-pointer.
10?
I was being nice to you with 13.
Yeah, have you guys heard that he catches passes this year?
Yeah. He's getting almost 3 targets a game, and Mekhi Sargent. And we talked about him this week. He's coming on strong, but not that strong.
Under 16 for a 3-pointer, under 10 for a 10-pointer. Final offer.
Have you seen how many points this dude's scoring?
Then you might want to pivot. I mean, I'm not going to get bullied into letting you get an easy 10 points.
Oh, that's easy? Derrick Henry going? I mean, I thought I was being a glutton for punishment here. All right, you got to go first. I'm going to pivot. I'm not taking a 3-pointer on under 16 for Henry in a high total game. He's going to.
I'll show you how to do a 10-pointer on Derrick Henry.
All right.
Give me 10 points if Darrell Williams outscores Derrick Henry.
That is a 10. That is really showing the expertise here. It was funny. I don't know, Pete, if you're watching Gretch's face. Gretch's face when you told him gave him the breakdown of that was just like crestfallen.
That's a better bet than the one that I'm trying to make. Under 13 points, you at least have outs if Darrell Williams has a big game.
That's why I'm a veteran of this game, Gretch, and you just came into the lion's den.
All right, I'm staying away from Derrick Henry then. I'll say A.J. Brown, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns.
The 2 touchdowns makes it a 10-pointer.
Yep, I agree.
And I take it his digestive problems are going away in this scenario?
No, he's going to shit after a second game in the end zone.
That's going to be a celebration.
That's at least 15 points. You got to make that a 15-pointer.
Yes, if he runs to the bathroom to shit after a second touchdown, we will give you an extra 5 points.
Yeah. Or if he shits himself live on TV, I think we'll also count that one, even though it is technically not the letter of the law.
Different strokes for different folks. Spags.
Next game up, New York Jets, 17.8 implied points. New England Patriots, 24.8 implied points. 7-point line according to the books. Edge Sports has it as an 8-point line, so not much to squeeze out of that one. And Gretch, you could try going first again if you want to take something in this beautiful matchup of the AFC East.
Do you guys do these? Do you guys do a cross games a player from this game outscores somebody
Sure.
from a different game?
Yeah, why not?
I'll say Elijah Moore outscores Rashad Bateman. Elijah Moore coming off the bye, little banged up, slow start to his season, was a big camp name. I think he's still going to have some explosive games. Bateman's going to be really popular in DFS this week. I think Elijah Moore outscoring him. I certainly don't think that's most likely scenario, but I do think it's a fun little bet.
I think that's a 3-pointer.
Yeah, I think it's a 3. You could have talked me into a 10 just because the ownership's not going to be on Moore at all. But this,
right,
the volume's there.
Yeah, Pete's a.
I'm not. That's not a 10-pointer. Let's not get crazy here.
But Darrell Williams outscoring Derrick Henry.
All right, I want a 10-pointer if Jacoby Myers scores a touchdown. He's never scored a touchdown in his career. It's one of the most unlikely things to happen. That has to be a 10-pointer.
I mean, it's going to happen. The law of averages says it's going to happen at some point, and we can't keep picking it every week, but I guess I'll give it to you.
No, you can't give it to him. There's TD scoring props. Let's go look at
he doesn't have an end zone target on the year either. So that's what makes me feel like it still would be a 10-pointer. He
scored last week, but it got called back. His prop to score, he's the second most likely by odds behind Damian Harris in the entire game to score.
Is this why they keep building casinos, Gretch?
Plus 150 to be an anytime score. The implied odds on that are what?
Astronomical.
33% or something.
Okay, fine. I have so much conviction. I'll take a 3-pointer Jacoby Myers touchdown.
Why did you take 2 touchdowns for 10?
Let's not be. That would take him 2 lifetimes just to get to 2 touchdowns.
Fun fact, he's thrown 2 TDs in the NFL.
Wow.
All right. How about, okay, Pete, what do you think about this one? What if Jacoby Myers outscores Zach Wilson? What's the scoring on that?
Literally, ETR has Jacoby Myers outscoring Zach Wilson. So just get that fucking bullshit out of here.
I thought it was worth a shot.
It's a 1-pointer.
You know what? I'm going to leverage off of Pete's conviction, and I will take Jacoby Myers scores 2 touchdowns for 10 points.
Yes. Yes.
It's not even leveraging. God.
That was a pretty good vault lead, though.
Because it'll be great when you're like, oh, I got it right, but Spags got it even more right and got 7 more points for it. That's the fun of the game.
Is that going to be the new meta of the game? Whatever one of us says, the other just tries to ramp it up to the nth degree.
I should have taken Darrell Williams to beat Derrick Henry by 2 points.
Yeah.
The evolution of the game is happening right before our eyes. I'm just blessed to be a part of it, really. Carolina, 23 implied points. The Giants, 20 implied points in this game. And Pete, I think we're back to you going first. I don't know. Try it either way.
All right. Let's see here. You said Carolina, right?
Yep. Carolina Giants.
Okay. All right. Let's say I want to do something to tilt Gretch.
I mean, this is like...
Hey, Gretch, 100 points if Robbie Anderson outscores DJ Moore.
We're splash play, Bob.
This is how I win psychologically, because Gretch has to be like, there's no fucking way that happens. That has to be a 10-pointer.
There's obviously a way that happens.
Okay,
wide receiver.
I thought you liked DJ Moore. Do you not like DJ Moore anymore?
Look, my written down prediction for this game is DJ Moore 30 burger, but I might change it. But that is what I have written down right now.
Wow. So it sounds like if Robbie Anderson outscores him, he scores 31. That seems like it's a 10-pointer.
I mean, like, I'll give you the 10 just because I think we need to make time.
So okay, no, I'll meet you guys in the middle. Robbie Anderson outscores DJ Moore by 1.5.
Is that in the middle?
All right. Give him his 10. It's not happening.
Fine. Take your 10.
Gretch,
what do you want here? And keep in mind, you're going to get an easier 10 then, especially if you are going for that DJ Moore angle.
Yeah, I mean, this is the other one where you could do the top DST on the slate. We just sat here and talked about how the Giants are going to be down every player, and Daniel Jones is bad. And I think the Panthers D is kind of underrated. So I think I might pivot to that and have that as my 10-pointer for 2 different games. Is that you guys good for that?
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
I'll take the Panthers top DST on the slate as well, along with my Packers.
If you just do it for every game, then
I'll
you'll have a 50% chance to get it.
So play all the defenses if you want to follow Gretch's lead. Sage advice. For me, I will say, all right, what is this has got to be 10, and I feel like it's too ambitious of a 10. But Pete, John Ross, highest scoring skill position player, must be a 10, right?
Oh God, it's at least a 50. And I'm a John Ross truther.
You said the highest scoring player
Position
game-
player, so
position
not
player?
QBs.
Yeah, I'll make an exception and give you 15 points, even though those don't even exist.
Okay, that's very
That's
generous,
how
and I will.
drunk you are
Or
right
you
now.
could just say on the Giants, and I think it's still worth 10. I mean, if you're including the Panthers in the entire game, whew, that sounds.
I feel like Pete would try to nickel and dime me on the Sterling Shepard thing. Be like, he's not that good. Devontae Booker is also just a backup. Running backs don't matter.
Don't put words in my mouth, but yeah, I wouldn't give you 10 points for that.
I know how it goes, but I'll take the 15 for that. John Ross, the John Ross breakout week we've all been waiting for outside of Madden. Finally,
2019 Spag or 2020 Spags would have never have done this bet. You've completely changed.
I've always enjoyed like low target, high A dot guys. That's a falsity. People who followed my Osmo content and followed me off a fucking cliff for some of those guys, I think can speak to that one. Either way, next game, Cincinnati, 20 implied points. Baltimore, 26.5 implied points. 7-point line according to the books here. And Gretch, you can go first on this one in this battle between two AFC North teams.
I'm seeing. I mean, this is just more like a take than the absurdity we're doing, but because Bateman is pretty high owned, I'm seeing Marquise Brown coming in, looking like he's going to come in at potentially even sub 5%, and so I have Marquise Brown as a 20-point producer, which I mean at his salary would be
That's a 3-pointer.
a smash.
DraftKings, Marquise Brown over 20 DraftKings points. It's a classic 3-pointer.
Yeah, that's a vintage 3-pointer, some could say. Pete, what do you want?
Oh, I mean, it's a 3-pointer as old as time. Spags.
It's a 2020 vintage.
It's something that is so comforting and relatable. Okay, I am going to say
Marquise Brown over 25 points.
no. I should. What will you guys give me if Tyler Boyd is the highest scoring Bengals wide receiver? So outscores Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
I'll leave that to Spags.
I think it's a 3. It's again a little. It's more than a 3, but it's closer to a 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
What about Higgins highest scoring?
I mean,
That's even less of a 3.
it's closer to a 3. It's an actual 3. Instead
That's
of a 5.
that's my point. Actual 3. All right, T. Higgins highest scoring Bengals wide receiver for 3 points.
All right. Okay. Well, I don't know if this is too heroic to go this way, but I just want to. A Baltimore double stack in the Millie Maker winning lineup. And I don't have to do that. I could just say Lamar and that would accomplish the same thing. But this is the show we've created now, Pete, where I feel like I'm making takes just to completely proof myself from you nickel and diming me down.
Yeah, that's probably an 8-pointer, but I'll give it to you.
What did you say? Baltimore double stack?
Yeah, in the Millie
I
Maker
like
winning
that.
lineup.
That's a good call. I like that.
All right. Thank you, Gretch. See, Gretch's so supportive, unlike Pete here, who just exists to tear us down and give us less points.
Congratulations on saying the chalk double stack is going to be in the winning Millie Maker lineup.
So mean. Detroit, 17.3 implied points. The Los Angeles Rams, 13.3 implied points. It's a 16-point line in the books, 14-point line according to Edge Sports' 100,000 simulations. So either way, also the money line of this one is minus 1,110 is the money line in this game. Pete, do you want a 10-pointer take Detroit to win?
That would be a very fun 10-pointer. Let me try this one on Gretch. Gretch, will you give me 10 points if the 4 highest scoring players in this game are all Rams?
No. He's done this with 5 guys, and it's worked really well in the past. He's got to do at least 6.
I mean, I would.
He got it right twice, Scratch. It's happened twice this year. He's killing us with this bullshit move that doesn't
Spags.
I mean, okay, look, the Rams very concentrated offense. I get that, but it is largely Kupp, Henderson. You got Woods potentially. Higbee would have to be pretty dang productive to outscore both
Van
Hockenson
Jefferson,
and Swift on the
Deshaun
other
Jackson
side.
lurking, Johnny Muntz waiting for his time in the spotlight.
Yeah, those guys are all definitely going to outscore both Swift and Hockenson, who are great. The Lions are great at garbage time production. I think if you get all 4 Rams, I think that's a 10-pointer.
I think it's still got to be 5. I'll give you the 5 on this one because Gretch made the case.
It's 5 if it's including the quarterback. 4 with just skill position.
I hate you. I'll allow it, but if it happens again, I will be the worst sport on Monday when we're doing the welcome to the family bit.
It's not happening.
Thank
DeAndre
you.
Swift or
Thank you,
TJ
Gretch.
Hawkinson Detroit's a concentrated offense too, especially when they trail. If LA does destroy, you're going to get Detroit production.
See, Pete's nodding, but like the thing is, it's the spread being so high. I figured out it's the games with the really high spreads. Pete just assumes that it's going to be an even worse blowout, and that's been right. So I think it's a very savvy take. It's just a little too easy for a 10 normally.
It's a great 10. Thank you guys. Who's next?
Gretch, you can go next here if you want to make an actual hot take instead of Pete's bullshit shell game he's given us here. His 3-card Monty approach to ride or die picks.
All right. I mean, I'll just go the other way just to go against Pete and say that DeAndre Swift's the highest scoring player in the game.
Okay, that's a 10, right?
That's a 10.
That's
including quarterbacks, Ben?
No. Skill player.
All right, so outscoring Cooper Kupp and Darrell Henderson is the bet, basically.
Yeah, I was originally going to do something for Hawkinson, but we got to get a little crazier than whatever I could get with Hawkinson.
Yeah, it's probably more of like an 8, but I'll round up for the guest.
All right, I got one, and I think this is going to be a 10, but it's really, I'm just going pure narrative with this one. Jared Goff outscores all of the Rams players. Is that a 10?
Yes.
Pete? Is that a 10?
Yeah, that's a 10.
Including Stafford?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a 10.
Okay, so the Jared Goff revenge game, not something I would normally want to back, but just for the sake of argument, let's do that for this one. Philadelphia, 22.8 implied points. Las Vegas, 25.8 implied points. This one, the books has a 48.5 point spread. Edge Sports has it as a 54 point spread, as I mentioned earlier, so keep that in mind if you want to stack this one up as a sneaky game. And I think I'm due to go first in this one, and I guess I'll take Hunter Renfrow, highest scoring skill position player. Pete, is that a 10?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, you can have that terrible player.
I never know how Pete Scarecchio's going to be like, Hunter Renfrow kind of been looking spry lately. I don't know.
You're going to argue that.
Spags is so in his head on this that he's making.
I don't know if it's a good play and a bad play anymore.
Just to make sure that I immediately agree that it's a 10-pointer.
Look, the meta game has been strong for you. I think we can all agree there. Gretch, what do you want?
I'll go Gainwell over Sanders in PPR points.
3?
Sanders is chalk. All right, wait, time out. Before I make the bet, is it a 10 or is it a 3?
It's like, do you want the real answer? Is it a 6? But we don't have those.
It's a 6? All right, then I'll go Quez. What about if Quez Watkins is the highest scoring receiver in the game?
Oh, that's a 10.
All right, Quez Watkins, highest scoring receiver in the game.
There you go.
I mean, is he going to outscore Hunter Renfrow? That's the big question everybody's asking. The streets are buzzing about.
Spags, listen to me closely. 3 players from this game, and I don't have to specify which, are in the winning Millie Maker lineup.
Okay. That's an interesting one. It's an interesting approach that we have not broken out on the show before, but
it's because PD Meta is always ahead of the game.
You really are. I think it's a 10. It's a weird.
Somebody whose name starts with the same first letter as the starting quarterback on one of these teams will be in the middle of your lineup.
The witty quarterback will have a Gemini horoscope.
Well, it's like, the Supreme Court, like when they make a ruling, it's like it has to be very specific and not overbroad. Like that's what this feels like, is every time I allow a new bet, it's like, fuck, he's going to exploit this and just use it to beat me.
I will say the way that he put that, he said in the winning Millie lineup, not in the optimal, which means somebody's got to actually play these 3 players. It can't be, Quez or Gainwell, who are not going to be in enough lineups probably.
Well, I'm about to max it. Game stack max this.
Just to get a shot at winning a ride or die pick.
That would be the biggest thing for me trying to win $1 million and then winning it and be more proud about just shoving it down your throat with my ride or die victory.
Not only did I beat you in ride or die picks, I leveraged it to get $1 million.
Thank you.
Houston, 15 implied points. Arizona, 32.5 implied points. And I'm going to go first in this one, Pete, just out of spite. I will say the top 5 scores in this game are Arizona Cardinals. Is that a 10?
Oh. It's a little bit tougher on this one because the bringbacks are Houston. You're just fading Brandon Cooks, basically.
Yeah, you're fading Brandon. No, but let's toss in the quarterback.
Yeah,
Davis
that's
Mill.
fine. I'll toss in the quarterback.
All right, I'll let him have this one. Gretch, what do you think? Because Brandon Cooks and Davis Mills can't pop up in there.
If he's going to get 5 Cardinals to outscore their QB, that's pretty damn good. I'll take that.
Yeah, we're gonna give it to you, but just it'll never happen again.
I've given you this one kindness, and I'll never give you. All right, Pete, what do you want?
Let's see here. Let's say Rondale Moore doubles up AJ Green in scoring.
Ugh,
1.
that's like a 3.
That's a 1.
Okay, AJ Green doubles up Rondale Moore in scoring.
Also a 1.
I think they're both 3s for what it's worth.
You're picking two guys that have the ability to have like a 1-point game. I mean, it's the doubles up thing. The way you're framing
You
this.
guys are just punishing me now because I'm so creative. All right. How about I'll take 3-pointer. Brandon Cooks outscores DeAndre Hopkins.
I'd give him that.
Okay, that's fair.
Thank you.
Okay, Gretch, what do you want?
10-pointer for DeAndre Hopkins outscoring Brandon Cooks.
I mean, he's only getting 3 targets a game at this point. So
Go the opposite of Pete for everything. I don't have a good one here. I was gonna do something where Cooks didn't score a lot of points. I'll say Cooks under 10 DK points, which is like, I mean, if you know this guy's market share numbers, that's somewhat bold.
Gretch is like the guy in a fantasy league that sends you the trade offer and tries to convince you way too
I'm
hard.
the only one convincing people of things here? I'm the only one?
You got to know how hard that would be for Brandon Cooks to go under.
All right. Here's what I'll say. Nico Collins outscores Brandon Cooks.
I was going to give you yours.
No,
Your
I don't even
initial-
want to say Cooks under 10. I want to say Nico Collins over Brandon Cooks.
That's a 10-pointer.
All right.
old metagame Pete is really in everybody's head on this show now. Unbelievable. Chicago, 17.5 implied points. Also, we're almost done, guys, so have no fear. Tampa Bay, 29.5 implied points. 12-point spread in this one. And Gretch, you can go first. Chicago and Tampa Bay, what do you want?
I mean, Leone told me that Fields is the lowest projected quarterback on the main slate at ETR, I think. And so I'm going to say that Justin Fields, like, how aggressive do I have to get with Justin Fields to get 10? Does he have to be in the winning Millie Maker lineup?
Outscores Tom Brady.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Outscores. Oh, wow. Okay. Outscores Tom. I was going to say 20 points for Justin Fields, but fine. Outscores Tom Brady. Let's go for it.
So I don't want to leverage off of Gretch. I want to highlight it. I want to season his pick with a little more. I would say just a little more salt on for 300 yards and a touchdown for Justin Fields. Is that enough for 10?
Say that again.
Passing yards?
300 passing yards and 1 passing touchdown.
What is his line? Probably Gretch, like 220
It's
for
gotta be
passing.
free.
It might not even be over 200 with how he's played this year.
Jesus.
I mean, in this matchup, it's not going to be that low, or else I'm going to be hammering the over, I think. But I'll pull it up real quick.
Yeah. My gut reaction, Spags, it's a 7-pointer, but we don't have those, so I guess it's a 3.
His over-under is 218.5.
So that feels like 300 is a pretty good distance between the prop line.
What's his Ben? Can you tell me his completion prop there?
I can. It is 19.5 and being bet to the under.
All right, so Spags, if he's also over 25 completions and 300 yards, I'll give it to you.
Okay, so but then I mean he would get a TD, I think, but the TD's off the table. Then we're just saying yardage plus completions.
No, and the TD is probably what really makes it.
Well, look, if he's thrown for 300 yards, it's probably
Fine. So 300 yards, 25 completion, poor Willis, and a touchdown is what he has to hit for 10.
Yes, correct.
Okay, good. I'll take it.
Good.
I mean, that was good negotiating by Pete, because if he gets 300, it's probably big plays. I don't think he gets 25 completions, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. All right, I'll do 10 points. 4 highest scoring players in the game are Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wait. Say that one more time.
The 4 highest scoring players in the game.
It's a
5.
hard no.
So that's a 3-pointer then we're doing?
No, all right, no, I'm pivoting. I'm just probing the waters. The
Bears have no one.
How many points if the Tampa Bay Bucks defense outscores Justin Fields?
I'd give you 10.
Thank
It's
you.
correlated. It's a good bet, but I'd give you 10.
All right.
Fine.
Thank you.
I don't know.
They're
I
gonna get
honestly,
some
I'm so
sacks,
beaten
though.
down by this experience. I love this show. I just want it to be over because I'm suffering. I'm just getting worked here. It's like being Muhammad Ali doing rope-a-dope. I'm just getting punched over.
I
And
do
over.
gotta say, as the impartial third, Pete is very good at getting his money down on better odds than he's giving Spags.
Pete is literally a sports book. Like this is exactly what we talk about. Like, don't trust your sports book because they will fucking squeeze you at every end.
Basically, my goal for the Friday show is for Spags to get off of it and feel like he just got waterboarded.
Honestly, you're not wrong. Gretch, what do you want?
I took the Fields.
Sorry, my bad. Okay, so I'm so distracted. I'm out of my element now because Pete's just working me. Sunday Night Football, the last game that we are going to do a ride or die pick for. We got Indianapolis, 19.8 implied points. San Francisco, 23.8 implied points. And we don't know a lot about this game that we need to know injury-wise. So, Pete, what do you want here? And Gretch, just so you know, normally we do just take a showdown captain, just make it easy for a 10-pointer.
Yeah. It's Elijah Mitchell week, fellas. Elijah Mitchell showdown winning.
That is
captain.
my fucking pick.
I'll let you have it. You want it?
Yeah, I do.
All right, take it.
Yes. Yeah, I win. I gotta just complain a little bit, Spags. He's a softie at heart.
Spags, do you want me to tell you my second pick so you can take that one?
Yeah, no. I'll let you have the second one. I'm sure it'll be completely different than what I'm going to take.
Brandon Ayuk, winning captain.
Oh yeah, that was not what I was going to take. Do we know who's starting at QB yet?
Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Is it okay? I will take whoever is starting at San Francisco QB winning captain, just in case Garoppolo doesn't get in. But if it's Lance or it's Garoppolo, that's my guy.
I think it's pretty clearly Garoppolo.
Yeah, Lance might have even been ruled out, but yeah.
Was he? Okay, well, whatever. If it's Garoppolo, if it's somebody, who else is even on the roster besides Lance or Garoppolo?
Yeah. I'd probably give him 100 points if Garoppolo is the winning captain, Gretch.
No. I'll take it. 100 points.
No. It's just all jokes. It's more of an 8, but we'll give you 10.
All right, there we go. We survived this one. Thank you guys for watching the show. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow at Yards Per Gretch, follow at Peter Overzet, follow at Chris Spags, follow at Splash Play Pod. Gretch, the floor is yours real fast to plug whatever you want, whether it be your many ventures or just, say something mean to Pete if you want on the way out. That's also completely fine. Maybe even encouraged.
I mean, look, you guys gave me plenty of time to plug before, so I guess mean to Pete is probably the path. I'll say Pete will not win the Millie Maker is my 10-point.
That's more of a 3.
I think it's a steady 1. It might be a -1 at this point.
I just want to say nice things to you guys. I appreciate you guys coming on the show and making me feel good about myself.
Look, we have a lot of fun.
The high road. Oh, cool. Yeah, real cool.
All right, so there we go. Make sure you're following everybody on this show and come back Monday, 2:30. We'll be back once more, drawing another viewer guest on that show. And check out, Pete, you got streams this weekend too, so plug your streams before we jump off.
Yeah, I'll be back Sunday morning at 10:30 to talk DFS. Gretch has a show on Sunday mornings with Beim4. That's a great watch. And also, just to plug it again, if you guys haven't subscribed to Stealing Signals, it's Ben Gretch's terrific newsletter. Mm-hmm. It's a Substack you can subscribe to. You get multiple emails a week, all of the signals and noise to help you on the waiver wire, DFS, lineup decisions, all that good stuff. Highly, highly recommend it.
And Latavius Murray also officially out, according to our accountant Willis, so that'll have some ramifications for the low ball lineups we built on yesterday's show that we will talk about on Monday. But either way, we appreciate all you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again soon. Have a good weekend and good luck.